Flippity flop. What is up, my friends, and welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be talking again with Tommy Tallarico, but this conversation has nothing to do about the Intellivision Amico. He's going to be talking about his involvement in the music and sound effects for Nintendo, the Nintendo GameCube's Metroid Prime. Very interesting to hear, from the industry's, the developer's side, his involvement with the game, and I hope you find this story as fascinating as I did. Enjoy, everyone. We'll just start with these questions because I've been staying away from the drama, the anti-Amico drama. It's not good. It's not good for me because I just
right.
It gets me all wound up. I'm sure you've witnessed me on camera
getting blood starts bubbling.
Exactly, especially when I know it's bullshit. It's like lies. It's not true. Twisting, making things out of context. So I just stay away from it. I don't have the time. So anyway. He gets riled up with this drama. So question number one.
Yes.
So there is an ongoing controversy in regards to your work with Metroid Prime. Skeptics and so-called journalists claim that you either did not work on the game, that your work was discarded and never used due to it being substandard, or that you were fired by Nintendo. What's the story with this, and why are you not credited for it? If you want to clear this ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, well, I actually don't think it's an ongoing controversy. It's just that, people who want to try to dig up any kind of dirt, they're grasping at straws, will make up anything in their minds and their heads and misinform people, just to get attention and to create drama where there is none. I know it's very simple. Me and Shigeru Miyamoto have been friends for 30 years now, and we always talked about working together. He really loved the stuff that I would do on the Sega Genesis. In the early 90s, of course, Sega was the big competitor to Nintendo. The Genesis and the Super Nintendo were going head to head. And he always really loved, my music. We first met in 1991, I believe, at CES, where we were featuring Global Gladiators, which was a Sega Genesis game. And he came over with his crew, and he's like, and back then I was a game tester and an audio guy. Back then you kind of did everything, and so. He said, and I was demoing the game to him, and he's like, who did the music? This is wonderful. And I said, I did, actually. What? So that was kind of cool. But we always talked about working together. Then I forget the year, but I think it was, I don't want to say a year and then not have it be true, but I believe it was like 1999 or maybe it was 2000. I'm not sure. I don't want to even say a year because I don't remember that. I've been doing this so long, but it was before Metroid had ever been announced, and we were at a Nintendo party at E3. And it was me and Jeff Spandenberg, who was the president of Retro Studios, who were out of Texas. And me and Jeff were pretty tight, and we would hang out all the time whenever I was in Texas or whatever. We'd go around town, and he, of course, was friends with Miyamoto. I was friends with Miyamoto. We're at this big Nintendo party, and he goes, "Hey, Tommy," goes, "come here. Me and Shigeru would like to talk to you." And I'm like, "Oh, of course. The master beckons. The greatest of the great. Wants to hold court. I'm there." And so anyway, the three of us kind of went off into a corner, and he says, "Look, you can't tell anyone this, and I know we can trust you and this and that, but Miyamoto-san would like to ask you something." And he said, "Oh, we've always talked about working together, and you can't say anything, but we're working on a new Metroid. We're bringing it back, and I'd love you to do, to work on this." And I'm like, "Well, amazing! Are you kidding me? Yes. You don't even have to. I don't even have to think about it. I don't even care what the money is." I go, "Whatever. That's all just details." "Yes, you have me." And so Retro at the time was working on about 4 or 5 games at once, and though they had an internal audio team which was working on different projects, and so this was going to be a new project, and so they said, "Hey, let's work together." So I did a contract with Retro through Nintendo, or through Retro, which ended up part of Nintendo, and we did a contract, and it was for a certain time, because we didn't know how long the game was even going to be, how long it was going to take at that time, because Nintendo is in a very great position, which is the game's finished when we say it's finished, and they have that luxury, because it's such a important AAA product. And so I believe, and again, I'd have to go back and look on the contract itself, but I think it was for a period of like 3 years or something, like to get from like point A to point B or whatever. And it was never to even do the entire game. It was just like, let's have you work on it for a couple years or whatever, because we're not sure how far along the game's going to be. We're not sure when, how, this and that, but we want you to work on the project. And I think the other part of the contract, if I remember correctly, was like to supply, like, whatever. It was like based on time, and then how many, and I think I was getting paid by time, and like there had to be a certain amount of sound effects as well, because if it was for 3 years and I only worked on 2 sound effects, well, that's not good for anyone, right? For me or them. So I think there was like 100 or 200, again, I don't remember, but it was over 100 sound effects in like a 3-year period or something. So we're working on the project, and the first thing they had me work on was we were working on the cinematics that they were going to show at Space World, and I believe that was 2001, I think. And so that's all that we had been really asked to do at that point, was, hey, let's, and I remember it clearly. It was Samus running down this hallway, and there were these, I think they were like some kind of mechanical robotic spiders kind of chasing her, and it wasn't very long. I think it was, again, this is 20 years ago, so I believe it was probably anywhere from like 20 seconds to a minute long. I forget. It's probably exists somewhere on YouTube, so I could easily probably check it out. But I haven't seen it or heard it in decades or over a decade.
Right.
So I don't remember exactly how long it was. But that was the thing. That was the only thing that we were ever asked to do for Space World, and because they were, so one of the things the great thing that Miyamoto did, which I tell this story many times, is that he said, "Tommy, I want you to create something we want to approach this in a very different way, where I want you to create the weapons first before you see animations." And that's very different and backwards. Usually, like if I'm working with Cliffy B on Unreal Tournament or whatever, the way me and Cliff would work, and whatever anyone normally works, is that they would, Cliff would call me up or email me and say, hey, Tommy, here's the chain gun for Unreal. And I would see the chain gun, and you would see the timing and the animation and how it looped, and you want to do a startup sound and then a looping sound and then an end sound when you would shut it off, and you'd put it all together, and you work with the programmer to implement that and this and that. That's normally how sound design's done. But Miyamoto's whole thing was like, look, I don't want to box you into like a visual. Just use your imagination and create the most amazing weapon sounds that you can think of. And then I'm going to bring that to our artists and our designers. And then they're going to start to work on the weapons and the animations based on your sounds. I'm like, well, that's just the coolest thing ever. I don't have any, all of my barriers and everything. They're all gone. I can just do whatever I want. And so, we had come up with crazy stuff, and so, but the gameplay. The one thing to know about Metroid is we were working on it. It went through many different phases, and the product was very much delayed because of, they didn't. They were changing the gameplay, they were changing the design, they were changing the graphics, they were changing the controls. It was I joined at the very beginning. And so, the scope of the game had been changing throughout. So, originally I remember that we were talking about, hey, let's do they were talking about potentially showing some interactive gameplay at Space World, and they ended up not doing that. And they said, you know what? Just let's focus on the cinematics, and they were just going to show that because it wasn't in a place where Miyamoto and Nintendo were happy. Not from any aspect, not from the animations and the sounds and the controls. They weren't really happy with where the product was. Fair enough, right? And so they only wanted to show something that was spectacular because this is one of their AAA titles. So instead they decided, you know what, let's just go with this trailer. And we'll just use it as a teaser. We're not gonna get the game in a spot where the game is playable and there's wow factor. So let's just go with the trailer. So that's what they ended up doing. And so, but it wasn't because the sounds were the sounds were bad, so we couldn't show the game. That's ridiculous. Only a half would think something like that.
Exactly.
So that was like Space World, and then after that, again, we started using, we started to do a bunch of sounds. What ended up happening is at the end of the contract, because again, I was contracted, I was never an employee of Retro or this and that.
Right.
What had happened is towards the end of the contract, Nintendo stepped in because they were unhappy, and I think this is, I don't feel like I'm, I think this is common knowledge, but they were kind of unhappy with where Metroid was because it was taking longer than expected. And again, Nintendo's the best of the best, right? They expect the highest quality. So the way I had heard it from Jeff at the time, the way it was explained to me, was that Nintendo was coming in and they said, look, Metroid's our most important product, and Retro, you're working on like 3 or 4 other things at the same time. We want you to stop doing that. Screw that. Nothing is more important than Metroid right now. So we're going to cancel every single other project that you're working on, and we want everyone to now work on Metroid. Nintendo's smart. Made sense, right? Sure. Why separate and split your resources, including your internal audio department. That's the reason they hired me, is because Miyamoto wanted to work with me, and also that their internal audio department was busy working on like these 3 or 4 other games. So, so Jeff, or again, I forget exactly who it was, who came to me and said, look, we're canceling all our other internal projects. We're putting on everything else, but we have an audio team now that's freeing up that we pay, that's internal. And so, it only makes sense, and the contract's ending, and we love everything that you've done. But because we're canceling all these other things, we're going to put our internal audio team on it for the rest of the game. And I'm like, totally makes sense. Absolutely. So no one got fired. No one didn't like the work. And in fact, exactly the opposite, where, and if you go on the Wayback Machine, you can actually see the email that Scott Peterson, who's still at Retro. Anyone can reach out to Scott Peterson if they wanted to because again, unintelligent half-wit conspiracy theorists will say, well, Tommy could have made up that email. That Scott, he never showed the actual email. He could have, and again, I've been in the industry 30 plus years, worked on 350 games. Do you actually think I would fake the guy's email, who anyone can clearly reach out to and just say, hey, Scott Peterson, is it true that this is the email you sent to Tommy Tallarico? Saying in that email, we really like your sounds. We found out later on that you were the guy who worked on it. Because remember, when I left the project, now a whole bunch of new people came in. And because it lasted so long, and Jeff Spandenberg ended up leaving the company, right? So I was talking with Miyamoto and Jeff Spandenberg. Either of those two guys would confirm 100% what I just told you. And then Scott Peterson later on, after Metroid had been released, that's when they found this Tommy Tallarico Studios file folder on the email, and they said, where all of these great sounds that we used in the game, we don't know where the originals came from until they found, and they were, again, read his email. These were important sounds in the game, visor sounds, some of the main weapon stuff, and again, I totally realize and recognize and appreciate that, and I'm not taking anything away from the Retro audio team, because they're amazing. Are you kidding me? They're super talented, incredible people who did all of the heavy lifting and made Metroid sound awesome. I'm in no way trying to take any credit for the incredible job that team of super talented people did. The reason Metroid is awesome is not because of me. I had my part in it. I had my role in it. But the reason it's awesome is because of the Retro audio team and because of the incredibly talented composer, original composer over in Japan. So I just want to make that clear that I would never try to take credit for for the incredible, and they did a lot more work than I ever did, but I worked on the game. So, and they did leave me out of the credits, not on purpose, but completely 100% by accident, because they didn't know. By the time the game came out, they had no idea where these sounds came from and that I even worked on it, because they were people and producers that I never met, because all of their projects ended up getting canceled. And then now again, Scott Peterson's still on you can look him up on LinkedIn. Anyone can outreach to him. You can copy and paste the email that I put out and you can verify it. Hey, Scott, did you write this to Tommy where you said that some of the great sounds from the game were by him and that you didn't know he worked on it and that's how he was left out of the credits because you didn't even know he worked on it? Anyone can contact him. There's no conspiracy theory there. There was no, and again, he would be the first to say, yeah, he wasn't fired because of, he was never fired, and the contract ended and we all started working on the product. So there's no conspiracy theories. There's no this and that, and that's why I was left out. And I'm like, and I told him, I said, hey, would it be cool if, just so as a form of record, would you be cool if I actually put your email out on my website? And again, it's not even on my website now, but it was back then, and you can go on the Wayback Machine and see it, or whatever it's called, Time Machine, Wayback Machine, whatever it's called, and look under Metroid Prime and you'll see it. And I said, do you have any problem with me putting this out? And he's like, no, that's cool. This is what I said, put it out there. Okay, cool. So to me, I know what I did on the project. I don't need validation to be in the credits. The other people who want to try to make me look bad and say, oh, I lied, I made up the whole thing, I'm just trying to like as if I would make up credit. Oh yeah, I worked on Tony Hawk as well. I didn't really, but I'm just going to tell everyone I did. Oh yeah, my name is in the credits for Guitar Hero, but I didn't really work on it. It's just, it's like, the intelligence level of some of these people who want to, say the things that they say, whatever. It is what it is. I'm in their head. I get it.
You got it, Tom. You explained it.
They obsess over me every day. I get it, and it's fun for them to try to come up with things, and that's fine. Hey, look, but yes, you asked me what the truth is. That's the truth.
I appreciate
Anyone can
look it up.
Can reach out to Scott Peterson and ask if that email is true or not.
Thank you, Tommy. I appreciate it. So yeah, everyone, that was a very interesting story. Stay tuned for more Tommy Tallarico interviews and the Road Rash 2 completion video coming out soon. I have some Arcade 1-Up news coming out real soon, and we're going to be streaming Miss Pac-Man this Wednesday night live. So a lot of stuff going on with the channel. Hope you guys enjoy. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you again real soon. Thank you all for watching. Peace out.
Yeah.